All right, welcome everyone to another City Council Candidate Forum organized by Denton Matters. We have with us today one of the candidates for mayor, Paul Meltzer. Paul has served the Denton community as a volunteer with a variety of organizations, including the American Red Cross, the United Way, Thin Line Film Fest, Meals on Wheels, and as the community service chair and president-elect of the Denton Rotary Club. Led by his passion to serve and his desire to keep making Denton better and not just bigger. You got me a little hung up there because I recognize that as your campaign slogan. Paul began his career on the Denton City Council in 2018 as the at-large member for Place 6. He currently serves as the mayor pro tem. That term means that Paul is the deputy mayor, and in Denton, fellow council members nominate and elect one of their own each term to serve as deputy mayor / mayor pro tem. Both the organizers with Denton Matters and I personally invited the city's current mayor, Gerard Hudspeth, to participate today, but despite our many and varied attempts, he declined. And I'm Peggy Heinkel-Wolfe, so some of you may know me from my byline in the Denton Record Chronicle, where I worked as a reporter for 15 years. This year, I joined the volunteers at Kuzu 92.9 FM, Denton's only nonprofit community radio station, to produce the local news. So I invite you to listen, here we go, shameless plug, at 10 a.m. each Wednesday. Our 5-minute news segment goes by fast, so you can catch the read broadcast at 3 p.m. on Thursdays. Okay, end of shameless plug.
And I want to thank you for that totally unbiased introduction that I wrote.
All right, Paul. All right, so for the forums for all the other candidates, I had 3 basic questions, and I'm changing them slightly depending on the circumstances of each race. And since we're essentially interviewing Paul today, I hope I don't have to, but I might have to redirect him to keep his answers brief and to the point, but there's no time limit. All right, so let's start with the first question. And it's one of the hot topics in this campaign finance. So we know that campaigns cost money, and sometimes it's hard for the public to understand where the money is coming and where it's going. So in that spirit, we've been asking the other candidates about the donors and donations, and we'll get to that with you in a moment, Paul. But for you, it seems the topic has leaned towards some of the expenses that you've paid. So please tell us about how much you've paid for political consulting, a ballpark number, in the past, and for this year's campaign, and then what the political consultant does to earn that pay.
Yeah. In the past, I have really been my own campaign manager, and I've had a lot of volunteer work. As you know, over time, these campaigns have gotten more expensive, more complex, and the need for just professional help because of the complexity of what you have to manage. It's become more apparent, and I've really benefited from it. In my particular case, and I kind of know what you're talking sort of around a little bit, I was evaluating all of my options. So there's a period of time when I hadn't decided for sure if I would be running for re-election to my current post, or run for a different post, or even run for a statewide race. So there was, and I'll tell you, to consider any of those things, it's really like you're launching a big enterprise. So there's a lot of research, a lot of relationships have to be created, a lot of sorting out of potential vendors. It's kind of like setting up a big business. I will be careful in how I answer this because I want to just have it be, sort of about us. But I would tell you that there are other campaigns that are where even more money is spent. That I would say we're on the relatively, although it seems like a lot of money, versus especially doing it yourself, which I'm here to tell you it can be done. And I wouldn't want anybody to think they couldn't run for a council seat, unless they had professional help. But I would say that on the scope of paying for consulting services, we're on the low end. You really can do it yourself. There's a lot of things you can do yourself. And I would be happy to freely, without charge, share my experiences. If you have enough of a volunteer force, people can make calls, people can put postage on things, everything that volunteers can do, you can just do on a bigger scale and more efficiently and, and just reach more people, if you do it more professionally.
So about how much have you paid for consulting in this race?
I believe the total is around 12 or 14,000.
Okay.
Compared to, like I said, zero when I was doing it all myself. But I'll tell you, well, I would also point out that it's no secret that in order to be competitive in terms of the amount of impact and people we can reach, I've been working as a team with campaigns of those who I totally love and admire and would love to see elected in a Denton forward slate. And that's, so there's some complexities to doing that and making sure that you account for everything correctly and everybody is properly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So professional management helps with that too.
Okay. All right. So let's get to the part of the question that everybody's answering. If so, along with the other candidates, if you could name, please, your top 2 or 3 donors and describe your relationship to them.
Yeah, I think the top, and I'm going off the top of my head. I think the top might be Mike Wagner from who now lives pretty sure Mike now lives in Indiana. And this is a very dear result. Part of what you have to do if you really need to raise, a large number of, large sums is in addition to drawing on all your supporters who from, your civic involvement, invariably, you're ultimately going to be reaching out to your friends and family, and people will remember you and want to support you. I can tell you last time when I ran, I'll come back to Mike, one of my largest donors was from Minnesota, someone I hadn't known. I didn't know who that was and why from Minnesota. And I really researched and did Facebook and asked this one who knows that one. And finally, it turned out to be someone who had gone to school with the person I was running against at that time, who felt strongly that they didn't want to support that person. So, but in this case, Mike was a young marketing manager who I had mentored in my career. And he had, he's become successful in his own right. And he, I think it was his way of saying thank you for setting him off in a good direction in his career. So that was Mike Wagner. And then, people may be surprised to find that a big plurality of my support is from the very dear and committed and active members of the community in Robeson Ranch. And some have been with me since the first time I ran. And so I believe Margot Ways and your husband will, and I won't remember off the top of my head, I'm afraid to get it wrong, but more than 2,000 we're up there. They believe in what I stand for. They believe in our vision for Denton, and they want to make sure that we're competitive. And you said top 2 or 3. I think surely somewhere up in that ranks would be the very dear George and Betty Jane Morrison, who I met initially at a fundraiser for Denton ISD. I learned that they, in their retirement, run a foundation to keep women with children, single women with children on the verge of homelessness, out of homelessness. And I'm so inspired by them. so I would say that's a mutual relationship. I love to support their foundation, and they're big supporters of mine. And I would add Cheryl Beard is one of the top. And again, I might not get the number wrong, so I'm afraid that I might get that wrong. But more than $2,000. Who I'll tell you, back when I ran the first time, I would not say I even had a particularly distinctive relationship. She's one of many dedicated supporters, part of the Denton scene, and you could have knocked me over with a feather when her checks arrived the first time I ran, and she has since left. I'm really getting into her business too much, but left Denton and came back, and really, as I would say, as committed as I am to seeing that Denton really grow in a way that is that values Denton's identity, and that we preserve as we grow environmental sustainability, our unique culture. And she really, I would say, just shares the vision.
Thanks, Paul. Honestly, I've been pleasantly surprised as people are answering this question, how generous the people of Denton are, and how committed they are. Opening up your pocketbook for politics that's big. All right.
Advice to future aspirants: you do need to ask people, but it's not for you. It's because you're giving people an opportunity to advance, their vision. You're a vehicle for their political ambitions. It's not the other way around. And so you have to ask, but you're really giving people an opportunity to express their political will.
All right, let's go on to the next question. The city budget took some hits during the pandemic and Winter Storm Uri. What do you think are the biggest threats to our city budget's long-term recovery, and what might the City Council do to address that?
Quite remarkably, we had really battened down the hatches during the winter storm, and with COVID also, really more than the storm. We were really prepared for a big fall off, and there's a lot of belt tightening that had been done. Actually, that's really more the way to look at it. There's a lot of belt tightening that had already been done because of COVID, and the expectation that things were really that it was going to be real crunch time. And city government was made quite lean. If anything, we really hear that city staff is stretched. So it's been a challenge to keep on the part of staff to keep re-engineering the management structure to keep all the bases covered. But it's kind of miraculous. But it put us in a kind of good place in terms of fiscal responsibility, especially because, to my surprise, I think to everyone's surprise, revenues came in stronger than expected on sales tax. So the local economy kind of roared back, and our total budget was actually up by $10 million, and it was really on the strength of sales tax. So I know I was, I took the unpopular position of not wanting to increase property tax. It was kind of the holdout, because you need a supermajority to do that. But the reason I did it was because I didn't feel we needed to, because the sales tax was strong. So we're actually not in a bad place. We're because of the tightening that had already been done. The challenges really are growth, and like we just saw it on Tuesday. We're outstripping our need for full-time firefighters. We just agreed to an amendment to allow fire department they asked for 3, and we saw with the overtime they're paying, they could really very constructively add 6 and not be in a worse spot. But we're going to need more police. We're going to need more fire. I think overall, the growth of Denton can do most of the work of paying for the growth in city services. We'll see. It's a constant hard task. Now, I would add this, and thank you for letting me go on and on a bit. Where there is, to me, obvious tremendous opportunity is on the sales tax side. Denton is a very winning proposition. People really want to come and spend time. Our vibe and our culture and our local small businesses are really attractive, and that has been a kind of a godsend to the region because people come here to have some fun. But so much of the square is dead space right now. It's amazing how strong it's been with lights going dark. The fire, the big hole. It's never hasn't yet. Anything hasn't happened. Fine Arts Theater, we had some hope. Nothing still. Fortunately, preserved against further weather damage. We see hooligans, dark. So to have that in an environment that's vibrant, where people want to come, that's a shame because we can have more for people to do. And from a city budget point of view, I really appreciate you letting me give full answers. Rather than have someone come and leave 80 cents of sales tax for a beer, if we can be true to our culture and have performance spaces like the fine arts that are open and give you a reason to come and spend a half a day or a weekend. And if we can build out our quality of life so that in addition to downtown, you can have a bike and ride our connected trail system. I mean, there's so much in terms of quality of life and culture that will ultimately, I believe, translate into sales tax. And that's going to keep pressure, if we do it right, we'll keep pressure off of property tax. I think it's a huge opportunity for Denton.
Okay. That was
the longest answer you've probably gotten yet, right? Yeah.
That's all right. Very thorough. Don't worry about it. Okay. Here's the last question. The past 2 years have been bleak, even brutal. Many of us have lost a loved one to COVID or know someone suffering with long COVID. And during the darkest days of the pandemic, we were literally sat in the dark during the deadly cold of Winter Storm Uri. These long periods of insecurity and isolation have frayed relationships across the community. Is there a way to campaign and a way to govern that can be restorative or at least appeal to our better angels, or at the very minimum, not further the destruction? And if so, what does that look like for you?
I so appreciate this question, Peggy. That's first of all, I just say it's a very sensitive reading of our recent history and our environment. It's a lot of why I'm running, to be perfectly honest. The history that I come from professionally is about working on teams and working in organizations where I don't have direct authority over other people. My background was new products. And the way you work, it's very similar to city government in that we have a weak mayor system. So, how do you succeed in that environment? When people don't report to you, mayor doesn't have a veto. What do you do? To really be successful in that environment, you need to articulate a vision and goals that people are inspired by and can attach to. And some of how you do that is by first understanding their goals. You really start with listening and finding where that kind of center of gravity is that you can give voice to. That's like, kind of rule one for team leadership is find a goal that everyone can share. And then the key as you work in a team of really of equals. I mean, the mayor has one vote, everybody has one vote, is by listening. It sounds corny almost, but I had to make a living doing it, where my work couldn't succeed unless others bought in. So you most have to listen to, I'm sorry, I'm preaching with my finger up. You most have to listen to, in my opinion, the people who disagree with you. That's the magic of it, because they might be right. I used to figuratively keep a little pocket card in my pocket that said, she might be right. He might be right. Because, people tend to defend their point of view and all. We don't want the best argument or the best speech. We want the best ideas. And if someone's got their piece of the truth that can help you bring that idea to a better place, that's gold. So my ambition is to bring a sense of teamwork to council. So we all feel we're part of the same enterprise. And golly, it ought to be possible. I mean, we're not really talking about, most of the time, incredibly ideological things. You know, if we share a love for Denton and a vision of Denton that's expressed in the Denton 2040 plan, we ought to be able to share that mission of, you know, sensibly bringing it to life.
Terrific. All right. So those were my 3 questions. Is there anything I haven't asked you about that you think is important for voters to know in this race, besides, you know, the early voting and all that? I'll take care of that.
Oh, golly. I would just invite voters to, if they want to, share in that vision of making Denton better, not just bigger. I'm going to say a little more about what does that mean? Why do I put that on signs you see all over town? You know, that this is a way to do that. And what I mean by that is growth's going to happen. It's not a question of whether we'll be bigger. We're going to be bigger. The question is, are we only about removing obstacles to development, which I'm not against removing obstacles, or are we really better about being in dialogue with development to create that bigger Denton that has things like wildlife corridors, 10-minute walk to green space, protected watersheds so that our water remains clean, ample tree canopy so that we don't suffer over the long term being, you know, having a heat island effect, so that we have a downtown that is built on our arts, our local small business culture, and our commitment to environmental sustainability, so that we have a truly convenient public transit system that makes it just simple to get around without fares, and knowing that not only are we really taking cars off the street, but let's imagine that that's today's technology. They're electric vehicles powered by Denton Renewables. It actually makes money for Denton to do that too. So, you know, there is a conscious, balanced, engaging Denton that may be like the Denton we have now, but be even better in all the ways that we like Denton. We can have that if we participate. So I encourage people to participate in the small area plans coming up and to participate in this election.
Fantastic. All right. Well, thank you, Paul. And I also want to thank the people of Denton Matters for who worked hard to, and were volunteers too, and to organize this important resource for local voters. And until next time, I just want to remind everybody that voting by mail has already begun, and in-person early voting begins April 25th, and the election is May 7th. And you can find more information online at votedenton.gov. Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.